Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Esoteric Influences for the 8th day of October 2020. Well, it's a Thursday, and I've done this once, and now I have to do it again because it froze. I was almost to the end. Anyhow, I'm going to keep the same cards, and we're going to do this all over again. So, if this is your first time here, welcome. Sometimes this happens, and I've got to repeat the video, so it's fine. I don't mind. It just takes a little longer to get them uploaded, that's all. Anyway, as my Esoteric Influences video is still uploading, it looks like it's 66% uploaded. As soon as I'm done here, as I watch it, I'll get that posted. Hopefully we can get through this and it doesn't freeze up on me again. So anyway, I closed out the software completely. I think I need to do that, and I don't know why, but anyway, it seems to help. Anyhow, our rune for today is Othala, the 24th rune of the Elder Futhark. It means it's an earth element rune. It is a combination of Ingus and Gebo. And it's basically the light of spirit shining inward and outward. The whole expression of the soul in form, the collective consciousness, the Akashic record. It means ancestral heritage, tradition, security, peace, loyalty, prosperity, protection, inheritance. Also means sacred space. And and I think we had this already. Did we have it yesterday? I'm not sure. I know we had it this week though, with acquisitio or gain. Now, gain can be a lot of things. It can be financial, but it can also be the gain of something or the increase of something. So, understanding how we come together in collective harmony, maybe. We're going to gain a little more on that today. I don't know. Maybe. When you see the reading, you might think so too. I have the Five of Swords and the Ten of Swords. So it magnifies there twice. It amplifies completely, double. And we have the Six of Wands. Now, when I selected them and when I drew them, it was the 5, then the 6, and then the 10. But I really think that I decided to put the 10 in the center and have that sort of be the midpoint in the experience, if not the significator. But let's go ahead and we'll talk about this 5 energy here, this 5 of Swords. Now, Swords is the air element, so we have a preponderance of intellect and reason and balance and communication, interaction, give and take, all of that, decisions, justice. But here, 5 is the number for change. So something's happened here. We see sketchy brown clouds in the sky, signifying deception at work. And one guy's won, likely due to deception. Look at the look on his face, so he's quite happy about him with himself, isn't he? While the others, you've got one by the water's edge there that's holding his head, sort of, kind of like this, and he's bereft, he's in grief over what just happened. So it was an argument that didn't turn out well, and it was based on deception. The other guy is looking at him. He's turned his back, both of them, to their swords on the ground. So their input, essentially their whole, their beliefs, their perceptions, what have you, their opinions, is on the ground, and the other guy's gathering them up, and he's not. It doesn't look like he really cares what they think. You see the line of demarcation here between the sand or the ground and the water. You can see some mountains and stuff over here. But the water's not smooth, so the emotion is still rumbling there. People are still upset over the outcome here, over the change that's happened. Somebody has won over them and they're not happy about it. And they're actually, the one is grieving over the whole thing. The loss, perhaps, of the relationship that the three of them had at one point. The one by the water looks fairly alone in the whole thing. It's what happens when people don't listen. It's what happens when your voice is not respected. When you stand up for yourself and say, I don't wish to be harmed, and having nobody listen. Or to be demeaned for saying so. That's the energy of this 5 of Swords. It's not a good experience, what's happened here. But then we come to the 10 of Swords. which looks worse, doesn't it? But in reality, the night is lifting. The illusion, it's the end of illusion. 10 is about endings and beginnings. It reduces to 1, and so you're looking at new beginnings and wholeness and unity and all of that. But here we have clarity returning. You don't see the sun, but the sun's implied. You see the golden sky below the dark night and the clouds that are lifting. But you see that the water is now smooth, isn't it? And so the emotions have settled. You see the mountains in the background. So it's not that the way forward won't have its own challenges, but right now we have the end of illusion and a shift in perception when you see 10 swords piercing the back of the guy on the ground. It's almost like it's this guy here, maybe. Or it's this guy. You know, I think that's what it is. I said this one, though, this one because he's got this kind of this cape right here. This cloth of some kind, this wrap. Kind of looks like it there. But realistically, it looks more like this guy. So the end of his arrogance, maybe. But with the 10, you're talking, you know, it's grief, it's betrayal. And I think that's why I have to think that it may not be this guy here. It's going to be probably reflective one of these two here. And realistically, perceptions have to shift at this point. The difficulty's over. No more can happen to this guy because he's dead, right? He needs a little bit of a rebirth, though, and that's coming with the light returning. So if you look at these two cards, the 5 and the 10, okay, there's a change in relationships. There's a change in interaction. But it's probably predicated upon perceptions that really aren't, you know, they're not either serving the group, they're not serving anybody within here, okay, other than one guy, as he picks up the spoils. What has he earned? What has he won? What has he gotten out of the whole thing? He's gotten a damaged relationship is what he's really gotten. And it's basically due to perceptions. Now, so I think the grief and betrayal actually began here. You know, there's loss, there's defeat, there's a sense of conquest here. But you see the sketchy brown clouds, so it was done from the standpoint of illusion and dilute and trying to delude other people into thinking something that isn't true. But, you know, so what did you really win if you did that, right? You've won nothing other than further separation, further isolation, further loss. Now, depending on who you want to see this guy as, whether it's the guy collecting the spoils or the ones behind him, I mean, maybe this is the guy by the water's edge, where we've just had enough, and we need a different way forward. Or, if it's the guy picking up the swords, what has he won here? He's won nothing. And so he's discovered perhaps that out of this, you know, what we have here, you know, out of the 5, what we have here then is all of the illusion that this guy was living under. Right? And it's gotten him nowhere. And so now he's got to drop all of that, and he's got to let all of it go and understand the self imprisonment that's happened from it. Because he's destroyed the relationships that he's had, right? Through deception and lying. And he's caused a bunch of grief by his attitude. So it's gotten him nowhere. So now it's time to let it go and to rethink things. And do it from the standpoint of clarity and inner truth. So that you can get back on the path together of the 6 of Wands. Here you see the king or the prince or someone of means coming back. Likely from a conversation he had, a meeting or something. He's not in battle attire, so it was likely not, unless it's afterwards and they're having just the parade to celebrate their win. But you can see that he's wearing a wreath. He's got one attached to his staff. And everybody else is following along on the ground. They're holding their own staffs, but they're going in the same direction. So whatever conflict happened here, a shift in perception occurred. You realized you were living under some illusion, irrespective of which person you are here in this. And you've just said, you know what, I can't go any further with that. I have to let that go. It's similar to the Eight of Cups, where you're walking away from emotions that no longer serve. You're walking away from illusion here. It's like you can't go down that road anymore. There's no truth there. And so you have to let the emotions settle, which they have, clearly. And then you have to allow the light to return and clarity to return. So that you understand that whatever, conflict that was happening was based on maybe even the deception from outside forces. You see how big the sketchy brown clouds are. It's another influence. Maybe there's an outside influence influencing this guy. And the harm that he's done has gotten him nowhere. It's served him not at all, right? So the only way forward then is together in harmony. Aligned will. The fire element is about will and creativity and the spark of life. Genesis. So after we let go of perceptions that are, that don't serve us, maybe they're replaced by a shared path forward, where we live in truth instead of the deception of someone else. Because I really think that those clouds matter here in this. I think that they really signify external influence. And you're buying into some lies maybe that, and then you act on it. I mean, they might not even be your own, right? You adopt that belief system of someone else who's doing nothing but lying to you. And then you go out there and you act in ways that are harmful to other people in your life, to your family, to your spouse, to your children, to your coworkers, to your neighbors, to your friends, to strangers at the grocery store. I think we're seeing a lot of that right now, don't you think? And I think that it's affecting how much we gain. I mean, we really gain nothing. It's like treading water, and you got 10 people treading water together and they're all fighting one another for the flotation device. That's what this reminds me of. Everybody's vying for the one thing that can save them when they have to realize that it's shared effort that will save you. And not being at loggerheads with people constantly. You go nowhere when it's a battle of wills. But here, there is no battle of wills, is there? Even in the Five of Wands, it isn't like this. You see playful struggle. You see, will kind of, bopping about with one another, but nobody's hitting one another with those staffs. So it's just expression of will. People are rising to the occasion. That didn't happen here. I think outside influence came in and influenced this guy. He lied his light is, what off. And it caused great harm to this relationship. Massive change to the relationship. And I think that we've been seeing that. And unfortunately, as I said in the first time I did this, I think that it's so pervasive now in our society. And it's been stimulated by people that don't understand truth, that don't operate from the standpoint of truth. They operate from the standpoint of manipulation and self-dealing and what can I get out of all of it, right? And I'm going to manipulate a bunch of people to help me do that. And that's what we've got going on. Unfortunately, because that energy is so intense and there's so much enabling around it, it trickles down into the rest of the collective consciousness. At least the manifested form of that here. And so what we end up having is a bunch of nobody's cooperating with one another kind of a situation that's developed, right? But, we have a chance, whether it's the collective thing going on in November, to then change that. and get us on a different path so that we're no longer living in someone else's delusion, self-dealing delusion, and having that affect our personal lives so deeply, so tragically. Because if you've lost somebody to the virus, that's his fault. I'm sorry, it is. These deaths are on the president's head. Every single one of them. Because he lied from the get-go about how bad this was. All he had to do was tell everybody, hey guys, I'm wearing a mask. You all need to wear masks. We got to stay distance from one another. That's all he had to do. And you know what? We'd be in a much better place and wouldn't have as many people gone. But oh no, couldn't do that. Instead, he had to lie. I think when we find out the complete truth about that, I mean, we're starting to see it with Bob Woodward's book and the tapes that came out. We know he lied. He doesn't care about us. He cares about making money. And he also cares about fulfilling his obligation to whoever he owes that 400 and some odd million dollars to. And then I saw one article in Vanity Fair where it's suggesting, no, it's like more like 1.1 billion that's in play here. Not on our backs. We have a chance to change that. Why wouldn't we? You know, the most important thing is that we go forward together. No matter how much we might argue about what that looks like, we have to be willing to sit down at a table and have an honest discussion about what that is. We can't let others go and try and usurp power, usurp authority, usurp control by devious means, sometimes illegal means. That's happened in my personal life. And it's not fun because you know a crime has been committed, but it's like, you know, hey, are we going to talk about this? You know, are we going to talk about it? Are we going to do something about it? Or are we just going to bury our heads in the sand? You know, it's not a fun thing to go through. And when you go through with it and you go through something like this as a country and you stand there and nobody's doing anything, well, that can't be. You see, that affects the Athala. It affects our sacred space. The sacred space we create together based on source presence, imbuing everything, as opposed to one giant, big ego imbuing everything. And what was this tape stuff? What, I mean, did he fall? Did he take a head or his whole let's see, be the right side of his face? Whole right side of his face is screwed up. Did he fall? Did he split his head open here? What happened there? Something happened. Go check that video that came out yesterday. Look at the right side of his face. It'll be on your left, but look at the right side of his face. You see like a C shape. And it looks like little tape strips, little steri strips. His whole right side of his face is swollen. At least it looks like it. Weird dark makeup on it to try to hide it. Something happened. But we're not going to be told. We're going to be lied to. So again, you got this going on. And we got to shift perception here. We got to see the truth for what it is and get on a shared path together. Whether this is in your personal life or whether, you know, it's what's going on collectively. Because it's all saturating all of humanity right now, this kind of nonsense. And we're having to contend with stuff that we just shouldn't have to contend with. The idea of dictators, are you kidding? Not in this country. Not going to happen here. Even though they're trying. Anyhow. That's it. I think I'm going to stop here before my screen freezes on me again. But I'll see you on Monday. I just do these 4 days a week, remember? And unless something weird happens, and then I'll come on and do one. It's like, oh gosh, we better look at the cards, you know. But look for the esoteric influences again tomorrow. I'll do a weekend edition for Friday and Saturday, and then I'll come back again on Sunday and do one then. And with the new stuff that comes out. And if you want to sign up for the esoteric influences for the whole week, you can get them in your inbox on Sundays. I just do them and send them out. And that way you can kind of follow along on that if you want to. So anyhow, again, click subscribe here on my YouTube channel. I'd love you to do that and come back and have a wonderful day. Wear a mask if you go out around anyone at all, whether you're inside or out, and give people plenty of room. Coming into the cold and flu season, and we're in round 2 of this the COVID as well is starting, so this is not going to be a good time. We're going to need to take a lot of precaution going forward through the winter until those vaccines are ready. So have a good day. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.